Right, so Donald Trump secured a resounding victory of 51% in the first 2024 Republican presidential contest in Iowa on Monday, asserting his dominance over the party despite a litany of legal troubles as he seeks a rematch with Democratic President Joe Biden. So Trump has urged Americans to unite and also contribute to making the world a better place after landslide victory in the Iowa caucuses. The results have cemented his status as a Republican frontrunner for president despite his mounting legal troubles. So to take this discussion forward, we're going to be joined by video link by Professor Chris Isike. He's the director of the African Center for the Study of the United States, University of Pretoria. Prof. Chris, good afternoon, and thank you for your time with us here on the SABC at this hour.
Good afternoon, Giselle. Good to you and me on.
Oh, Prof, thank you for your time. Perhaps we could look at what's the dynamics unfolding in the United States of America. And at this point, does Donald Trump's Iowa win mark a comeback for him? What are you observing?
Well, yeah, it does in many ways. It shows that he is, if there were talks about his dominance of the Republican Party, that those talks have quickly now moved into practical reality, considering the way that he has won in Iowa and also been projected to win in the New Hampshire one primaries, which is supposed to be a stronghold for Nikki Haley, and she has campaigned very strongly there in the last couple of weeks. But it looks like it's all systems go for Trump at this stage to become the nominee for the Republican Party for the 2024 election.
And so, Prof, looking at the domestic climate of the U.S. then, just on the back of these dynamics unfolding, is this a step backwards or forwards for the country?
Well, it depends on where you're looking at it from. The country has been polarized, more so since the last elections in 2020. And it looks like Trump has not lost any of his base, from the last election. Biden may not necessarily be so confident, considering that he's an incumbent president. And incumbency sometimes can be a factor, for losing, especially when people look at what you have done or not done, right? The economy is going very well, and there are talks that the economy, immigration was a strong factor for Republicans that voted for Trump in Iowa. But if the economy was really the issue, then they shouldn't have been looking at Trump, because Biden has done better in the economy than Trump. However, it's clear that the economy, despite the loads of court cases, charges against him that you mentioned earlier on, he seems to power on. So whether this is good or not, it depends on where you stand. But I would say that if he does come back, it will have major effect, not just for American politics, because one of the things that Trump has highlighted is the kind of retributive politics that he's going to be playing if he wins the election. But it also has implications for the rest of the world. And the world is watching clearly, given how he ran America in the last 4 years before now, and the pushback that you may get from Europe and the rest of the world.
Well, Prof, as we then also take a step back and reflect on President Joe Biden's tenure, the USA's allyship, given the geopolitical dynamics unfolding as well, Ukraine, Russia, even Israel and Hamas, what are you observing on that front? Let me even extend it to the youth vote. Does Biden have the young voters behind him, just behind his side, despite some of the misgivings that have come to the fore as well?
Well, like you said, the current war in the Middle East will be an issue for many. Americans are pretty divided on that issue, and this is where the incumbency factor may play against Biden. The war in Ukraine as well, which Trump has used in his campaigns, will also become an issue. But in terms of the young people, tend to support Biden because of the economic gains he's had and some of the landmark legislations that he has passed, including the ones that will allow student loans to be forgiven. These are pro-youth, pro-employment, pro-future policies that young people should actually be excited about. But there are many of those who also think that the Democratic Party is not going to go make the right choice if it's Biden because of his age. So it's going to be difficult at this point to say precisely. If you use polling results, of course, you see that Trump is leading across many of the polls across the states. However, the issues at the end of the day would come down to how much confidence Democrats and young Americans feel about Biden's age and capability to see through another 4 years. That would be a huge factor. However, if it comes down to Biden and Trump, it will be a question of how much the Democrats and independents do not want another Trump presidency versus, how much the Republicans want Trump and Trump alone to become president again.
Prof, thank you for that, because I actually wanted to look at this next point, which is going to be twofold. The first is whether Trump's trials are going to wind up mattering, if not for the Republican primary voters, just for the general election. And then if we're looking at those contesting, do third-party candidates gain any real traction at this point? Do they become a wild card? I'm asking this because we've seen the likes of Robert F. Kennedy, the environmentalist. We've seen Jill Stein. You've also seen Professor Cornel West coming through. And I wonder if you could help us understand whether, they will also increase, or they will be that wild card factor at this point?
The first question was on whether Trump's charges would affect the outcomes of the general election, right? Yeah, look, it would. Among his Republican base, not at all. It appears that even if he's, like he said many years ago, that if he stood in the middle of New York and killed someone, the Republicans will vote for him. This is a statement he made in the late 80s, and it's proven to be true in 2024. It proved to be true in 2016, almost true in 2020, and now, proven to be true in 24. So among the Republicans, no, it would not matter. And the Iowa win yesterday it proves that. But for Democrats and especially those that will be independent voters and could become a deciding factor depending on how much of them are encouraged to mobilize to take part in the elections, it will definitely be an issue. Of course, there are conservative, more moderate, if you like, liberal Republicans that have expressed the fact that they are concerned about the character of the person who is president of the country, because it's a reflection of the country in itself. And this is one of the areas where I think Americans should be concerned about a Trump presidency, what it would mean for how America is perceived and how America will be treated by the rest of the world, considering that American power is not really only about its military might, it's also about its soft power agency, right? And Trump is a major subtraction from that soft power, which makes the world to look up to America. What I'm saying in essence is that it would matter. His conviction, especially if he's convicted on any of these charges before the elections in November, would actually sway moderates or independent that are undecided in terms of wanting to vote for a Republican or a Democrat to go the way of the Democrats. However, I cannot say for now how much of these independent voters will impact the final outcome of the elections and say who is likely to win between a Biden and Trump contest. On the question of the wild cards, look. None of these names you mentioned would be able to be a wild card or spring any surprise in these particular elections, because the polarization we've seen in American politics is very deep, and it's along the lines of these two major parties. If all of them could unite and come out with the third force, and that is outside of the main two, that could possibly drag votes from either one of them. But I doubt that will be from the Republican base, because they are very convinced that Trump is their man, and they would do anything for him, especially majority of those of them that are in rural America.
Well, Prof, thank you for your time with us on the SABC and for weighing in. We'll leave the conversation there. Professor Christopher Isike, he's the director of the African Center for the Study of the United States at the University of Pretoria.